As an Indian, when you realize that you want to find a partner on your own rather than going for the arranged marriage path, you run into some serious challenges because the culture has not prepared you for that case. And so in this video, I will explain the 3 reasons why most Indians don't manage to accomplish that challenge. They don't succeed in finding a partner on their own and end up getting an arranged marriage, even though they really would have preferred a love marriage. And this is something that you can avoid if you understand the 3 main mindset patterns that I'll explain in this video that are responsible for this failure. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Achil Rudolph. I'm a social confidence coach, and for the last 3 years I've coached primarily South Asian men on how to build a fulfilling dating life and find the right partner for a long-term relationship here in the West. And I've realized in my own life, but also through my clients, that dating is a highly sensitive topic for Indians. Of course, dating is not really part of the equation in the Indian traditional culture. So there's no framework to really talk about it. And most people just don't want to talk about it at all, at least not openly. And on this channel, we say, let's drop those norms. Let's not stigmatize this topic. Let's not over-romanticize it either. Let's just see it as one particular set of communication skills challenges that can be solved, and solve it. And I have spent the last years diving deep into this topic and talking to around 300 Indian, mostly men, who have this problem and who told me all about it. And together with my own experience as a half Indian, I have figured out a pattern, and I've seen certain mindsets that come up over and over again. And in this video, I want to show you the 3 main mindset patterns that I have uncovered in this process that I believe cause the problems that Indians abroad face when it comes to dating. And when you understand these mindset patterns and recognize them in yourself, you'll be able to avoid them, and you'll be able to see when it happens in your own life, and you'll be able to take a step back and say, oh, maybe I should make a change here and take another path. So without further ado, let's dive into the 3 reasons why South Asian immigrants in the West struggle with dating. And the first one is that there's a tendency in that demographic to not take full responsibility for one's dating life. Obviously, in the Indian context, dating is not really your responsibility. I mean, dating, first of all, doesn't happen, and the larger topic of partner search is handled primarily by the family. And so you can be easily forgiven for this belief that's deeply anchored in your culture that if you're ready for marriage, you don't have to necessarily do a lot to actively find a partner. It is taken care of. And so a lot of people come here and they still have that mindset, and they say, yeah, I'm ready to get settled. I don't really want to spend a lot of time dating. I'm done dating. I mean, I don't like dating at all. I just want to find the right partner now. But that doesn't work. You have to be dating in order to find a partner on your own in the West, even though it's not part of your DNA, your cultural DNA, and it's also not necessarily something you enjoy, and it's not something you're used to. And that is uncomfortable because it comes on top of many other responsibilities that you already have. As an immigrant especially, it's not easy to even make enough money to make sure that economics are taken care of and the housing situation is figured out. And of course, as Indians, we also love to pride ourselves with being particularly responsible, being particularly caring for our family and helping out people around us. And it's ironic in a way that on this topic, where it comes to actually helping ourselves, we often say, yeah, that's not really my responsibility. And you don't say this consciously, but implicitly, because if you don't take it seriously as a subject, as a topic that you need to work on, then implicitly you're avoiding responsibility for that. And that is something you have to stop. You have to decide whether you really want to get a love marriage. And if that's the case, then you have to actually do whatever is necessary to make that happen. And the first thing is make a plan. Again, there's this romantic notion, and oftentimes it comes from Western Hollywood, but it also comes from Bollywood movies, where marriage and dating is just something that happens, and you go through life, and if it's meant to happen, it happens, and you're waiting for it to happen. But that's not an attitude that you can uphold for a long time. If it doesn't happen for you in many years, then probably you need to do something. Probably the universe is telling you, hey, this is not gonna work the way it is right now. And as I said, this is uncomfortable because there is the certain laziness and inertia in humans to not want to change and not want to take a lot of action. But you want to be aware of that fact that if you're not taking action, you are actually deciding for an arranged marriage. And so one way that I like to use to motivate myself to do what I have to do is to picture the outcome that's going to be the natural consequence of me not doing the action. So by not doing what you have to do to figure out dating and make dating work for you, you're really moving straight into arranged marriage, because that is the default outcome, and you know this, and I'm here to remind you of this and to tell you, I know you don't want this, so better start thinking about it and changing your path. I'm not saying you have to start dating the way that everyone else dates. That's the beauty here. As an immigrant, you will have the unique opportunity to bring in your cultural values and actually design a new form of dating that works well for you, that is maybe not just better for you, but even better for many other people around here, because I can tell you that many people here are also fed up and sick of dating. And you can design your own system of dating if you like, and bring that up and introduce that, but you have to find a way that works. You can't just say, yeah, dating is not for me, and at the same time say you want a love marriage. Now, the second big area that I discovered when I did these hundreds of interviews with Indian men was that there is a certain static and one-dimensional mindset when it comes to what it means to be a high-value man in the dating landscape of the 21st century. We often think that it's just not going to work because we're Indian. Just the skin color, just the origin, just the culture often is enough to say, yeah, I'm not going to have success anyways, because they don't like Indians here. It's because I'm Indian, it's because I'm short, it's because I'm dark, it's because I'm skinny, fat. All these attributes that you believe are stopping you from having success with dating end up being excuses that you use, because you know deep down that you can change all these things, and the things that you can change usually don't matter alone. But there is the logical flaw in many people's minds, where they overemphasize exactly those things that they can't change, because that way you can justify again not taking action. If it's just because of your skin color, and that's one thing you can't easily change, well then you might as well just lean back and go for that arranged marriage, rather than working on your body, changing the things that you can change, changing your personality, all those things that clearly matter much more. So you want to think about this and realize that there are so many more things that matter. And in dating, people evaluate each other on a huge plethora of different dimensions. And most importantly, that selection of dimensions that you use to evaluate someone as a potential partner is subjective. It's going to be different for every single person. Dating is a multi-dimensional and also dynamic selection process, because we don't just choose someone based on where they are right now. We also choose someone based on the projection into the future and where we think they will be. And you know plenty of examples where someone who was not extremely attractive on the outside, let's say judging on based on looks or money, got with someone who was very attractive on the outside. how can that be? Of course, it's because people care more about those underlying deeper values and personality traits than about the outside appearance. And I can tell you that my partners, all my girlfriends that I ever had, would not have swiped right on me on a Tinder or dating app because I wasn't their type physically, optically. I wasn't their type on photos. But it didn't matter when I actually met them in person because I could display more parts of my personality because I had worked on them, because I realized that they matter more. And I didn't just blame it on that one thing that didn't work for me, which is photos on dating apps. So there are certainly prejudices against Indians, but you want to think about them and actually understand why those prejudices exist. What is it about many Indians that people here in the West don't like that much? And is that something that you also don't like? And if yes, then why don't you change it? Why don't you just go and change that particular aspect? You can. And maybe you cannot change certain things like your appearance on photos, and you cannot communicate through certain media that you are different from all the other Indians. So then your task is to find a way to actually communicate that and go into other channels. Instead of just saying, I'm going to do online dating because everyone else does that, you can say, no, I'm going to go offline and meet people where I can actually communicate my qualities. That is your responsibility, and you can change those things that matter to you. And it's important for everyone to realize and understand what it is that matters to you, because you don't want to change those things just in order to be liked by others. There is this misconception, right, that you need to become a high value 1%, top 1% man. There is no objective scale on which the value of a man is measured. Every person has a different weighing mechanism, a different scale, a different selection of dimensions that they care about. And instead of saying, I'm going to try to be up on the scale of the majority of people, you want to say, what is my own value system? What do I care about? What are the dimensions that I want to excel at? And then you make a plan to excel in those values. Because then what will happen is naturally you will attract other people who have a similar value system and who will see you excel in the values that they care about. And so for them, you will be a high value man. For them, you will be the top 1%. For many others, you won't. But this again is work, and it involves work on many different areas. You can't just say, I'm going to focus on that one dimension, looks and money. Because when you ask yourself deeply, what do you really care about? You know that you care about more than just looks and money. Maybe you think that the world cares about looks and money, but you care about many other things, many other values. And it's important then to also take those other values as something to improve in, something to spend time on. So you can't just spend time on career and neglect your health, your sports, education, reading, art, whatever other things that you're interested in, architecture, traveling, photography. You need to be a high value man in your own eyes, which includes all the other aspects of life. And then you will attract the people who have similar values. And oftentimes it is intellectual laziness that stops you from doing that, but also just the fear of having to do all that work, having to transform. There is a part of you that doesn't really want to transform because it knows it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's going to stop you from even sitting down for a few minutes and writing down what your values actually are. Be aware of that and start noticing all the ways that your own unconscious mind also tells you, hey, you can't change that, or tells you to just overly focus on one dimension in order to stop you from developing on all the other dimensions. And now the third reason why dating is extremely difficult, oftentimes for Indians from that South Asian cultural context in the West, and that is prejudices. There are lots of preconceptions about Western dating and about relationships in the West, which oftentimes cripple Indians and just prevent them from even starting to discover and explore this area of life on their own. And oftentimes these are generalizations, like vast generalizations about the nature of dating in the West, where Western dating is seen as degenerate, it's seen as a pure hookup culture. Sometimes people go so far as to say that there are no good, suitable women in the West. They don't exist. I've heard that. And when you dig a bit deeper, they might say something like, well, yeah, Western women, they're okay for like short-term relationships, for having fun, but not for something serious. I couldn't imagine that. Well, if you have this kind of belief in your mind, you're definitely not going to find the woman that is actually up for a long-term relationship with you. And it's also extremely toxic to have this underlying belief that women in the West are too easy. Because if they're too easy, that kind of leads to a very painful contradiction, which is, well, why are they not easy for you? They're easy for everyone else, but not for you. That'll destroy your self-esteem. Oftentimes, Indians also have a lot of fear of the actual relationship if it happens. If you actually enter a relationship and suddenly you find someone who seems to be attracted to you and seems to want a long-term relationship, you will often wonder how can that even be? It's not compatible with all the other beliefs that I hold about dating and Western women. And so one thing that often pops up is, she's just dating me for money. She must be interested in me just for my money. And in the end, she'll probably divorce me anyways. This is also a big fear that a lot of Indians have when they come to the West, because they think that, yeah, Western dating often leads to marriages that end up in divorce. If you look at the statistics, it's 50%. It's really scary. And if you go in with that thought again into the dating process, you will actually end up divorced, because it shows that you're not very confident in your ability to build a relationship that lasts. If you want to be part of the 50% that don't get divorced, you need to believe that you can do that for sure. And if you look at all the people out there, you should realize very easily that you are not like them. You are not like the average here. You're a very special breed. If you're looking at this video right now and thinking so deeply with me here about how to get an amazing social and dating and family life, then you are much more thoughtful than 90% of the people out there. And you want to have that confidence that you will be a person who keeps growing and keeps transforming himself and keeps becoming a better, more value version of himself. And when you find a partner, there will be no reason or hardly any reason for that person to leave you. And if they end up doing it anyways, it's also not a huge deal, because you are becoming more and more valuable and you will find another partner if it's necessary in the end. Of course you don't want that, and it's not going to happen if you have that mindset of being someone who keeps growing and inspiring the people around and giving value to the people around. There'll just not be any reason for that person to leave you. So yes, there are some cultural incompatibilities. Definitely the average culture out there in the West is not very compatible with the cultural preferences of Indians, but there are lots of exceptions. And there's also a lot of backlash already in the Western society against the modern transformations that have been happening, and you can capitalize on that. You can actually find the people that are also not happy with the way Western culture is progressing right now, and they'll be super grateful to find someone who can offer an alternative. But if you generalize and believe that Western culture is degenerate and all people are like that, you're not going to find those people, you're not going to attract those people. And yes, finding those people and attracting those people is going to be a bit difficult because you'll have to look for those exceptions. But you are an exception. Why shouldn't you be able to attract other exceptions? And also, why are you running away from a difficult challenge? Confidence ultimately is built by doing difficult things. So when you see something scary and difficult like this challenge, instead of saying, yeah, it's not possible, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to even attempt it, you want to say, okay, what's the way to actually solve this? Is there a way? Probably there is. Figure it out. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's difficult. But let's do it anyways. That's how you ultimately build your confidence, and you'll fail. You'll fail in the beginning because difficult things are actually difficult, but that's not a big deal. And you can fail in relationships and in dating and even in building a family. And it'll only lead to you becoming a stronger version of yourself. If you run away from those challenges and don't even face them and don't even tackle them all head on, you will just grow more insecure, and you will also endanger an arranged marriage if you were to enter that later down the road. Because an insecure man is going to have problems in any form of societal construct. So in summary, there's these three areas, these three mindset patterns that often hinder Indian immigrants abroad from actually diving in and taking the most out of the freedom that you have in the West to find your own partner, which is first, they often don't see it as something they need to take full responsibility for. They see it as something that they might be able to skip and avoid because there's so much else to do. And that's not going to fly. You're going to have to take it seriously, and if it doesn't happen on its own, you have to take some action, and maybe you'll have to transform yourself to become someone who can actually make this happen. Second, oftentimes Indians see dating as something static and one-dimensional or low-dimensional, but dating is a highly dynamic problem with lots of dimensions, and your value on the dating market depends on thousands of things, and it's different for every single human. So you want to be sure about the niche that you are in, what are your values, and how can you grow on those dimensions. And then you'll definitely find people who also have that value system. The world is big enough, there are enough people, there will be some that share your exact value system. You don't have to imitate anyone else, and you don't have to conform to what you perceive the markets demand. Just do your thing, but do it well, and grow in that area, and you'll attract people who are also caring about those dimensions. And lastly, you want to reflect on those prejudices that have been installed because of cultural differences, because of the culture war that's going on right now. And you don't want to generalize easily. Even if, on average, the culture in the West might not be very attractive to you and might not be conducive to what you look for in a relationship, you can find exceptions. And it's not that difficult. It's just a matter of showing exactly who you are and what you want, and then people will be automatically attracted to you. Because, as I said, a lot of people here are also not happy with the dating landscape and with the culture. And so you will attract a lot of people who are grateful for having the opportunity to break out of it with your leadership. Of course, there's still a lot of implementation to be done when you start setting your mind in the right way. You need to still figure out what action to take. So if you need help with actually implementing all of this, I'll be happy to talk to you in more detail. There's a link in the description where you can actually find out more about that process. And as always, leave a like, a comment. I actually read them and respond to most of them. And subscribe to this channel. Samgachadvam. Namaskar.